Hey guys, it's Mr. Robinson. I kind of just wanted to go over real quick what we are working on in class this week. We are talking about two main things really. We're talking about what are exponents and how do we expand them. And we're also talking about how do we distribute from outside of a grouping system, so like this 3, what happens to those numbers, and of course, how do we solve out of it, okay? So the main thing we're going to start off with is just how do we do that distribution. Okay, we talked about it a little bit in class yesterday, and it shows up a lot in 8th grade math, so I want to make sure we have a great grasp on this. So what we have here, these parentheses, actually let me change to a different color so we can see it better. These parentheses, okay, what those tell me is that I'm multiplying something. So anything that is outside of the parentheses is being multiplied. So this is saying 3 groups of 7x plus 9. Okay, now that sounds way more complicated than it actually is. What it really is just telling me to do is take my number that's outside and multiply it in to my 2 units. So here, I'm going to come down. This is going to be 3 times 7x is 21x. And this is a positive 9, so 3 times a positive 9 is a positive 27. And that equals 54. Okay? And the nice thing is, now that I've done that, my grouping signs just go away. So now I have an equation that I can just solve. 21x plus 27 equals 54. So if I was going to solve that then, I need to move my 27 by taking its opposite. That goes away. And the reason I start on that side is that's the side my variable's on. And then I'm just going to finish it off from here. 14 minus 7 is 7. This becomes a 4. 4 minus 2. So I'm left with 27 there is 21x. Okay. If I'm multiplying x by 21, to get rid of that 21, I just divide it by 21. And I'm left with x equals 27 over 21. Now, I highly recommend you leave it just as that fraction. There's no need to convert it out. However, if you wanted to simplify it to really impress me, you could simplify it because both of these are divisible by 3, and you would get it simplified down to 9 over 7. But again, not required. What I really care about is seeing that I need to isolate it by dividing everything by 21. Okay, let's look at it. One more grouping example real quick. Let's say we had something like 5 parentheses 3x plus 20 equals 100. Okay, let's say that was the case. Again, I'm just going to look. These grouping symbols or parentheses, what they're telling me is I have 5 groups of whatever's on the inside. Now I could draw all those out if I wanted to, or I could just multiply my 5 into both numbers. So to do that, I'm going to go 5 times 3x, which is 15x. 5 times a positive 20 is a positive 100. And all of that equals 100. Now I'm just into my 2-step equations here. I have a variable on this side. So this is the side I'm going to start working on. And I need to move this positive 100. Well, to move it, I take its opposite. That goes away. And I'm left with 15x equals 100 minus 100, which is 0. Then to finish this off, all I need to do is divide both sides by 15, and I'm left with x equals 0 is my answer. And I'm done. So that's how we do the distribution. We'll be practicing that in class, and there's a good chunk of your homework where it just asks you to throw that multiply into your parentheses to show me what you get. But that's what we're working on. We will continue to build on this. We're not just going to stop here. Okay? I'll do one more real quick. Bring it in. 4 times 2x is 8x. 4 times 9 is a positive 36. And all that equals 120. I'm going to move. This is my variable side. The x is here. So I'm going to move that 36 away from it by taking its opposite. That goes away. And I have my 8x equals, that's a 4, that's a 11 minus 3, 84. So I have 8x equals 84. I'm going to divide both sides by 8. And I'm left with x equals 84 over 8. If I wanted to simplify that, I can divide both of those by 2, which would give me divided both by 2. This is going to be a 4 on the bottom. That's going to be a 42 on the top. And I can divide them both by 2 one more time to get 21 halves. And that's where I would finish. But again, if you get this far, I'm more than happy with where you've gotten. Okay? The other thing we're talking about this week is our exponents. So yesterday we talked about exponents 101. So this would be like if you see something that looks like that. That is 3 to the 5th. Okay, and what's happening there's two components to an exponent problem. There's this number here, which is called our base number. Okay, that's the base number. And all that number tells me is what number it is that I'm multiplying by itself. The exponent here tells me how many times I multiply the base number times itself. Okay? That's all that tells me is how many times. So if I'm looking at 3 as my base number, that's what I'm dealing with, and I'm multiplying by itself 5 times. That is what's happening in that equation. And if I did this out, I'd have 3 times 3 is 9. 9 times 3 is 27. 27 times 3 is 81. 81 times 3 is 243. Okay? However, this expanded form or my exponential form is probably a better form for the equation than the actual answer. So we're really focusing this week on how do we expand or how do we take from expanded into exponential notation. Okay, so if we're doing it the easy way, we see stuff like this, 5 to the 7th power. The 5 is going to be my base number here, so that's the number that I'm multiplying times itself. My exponent tells me I'm doing it 7 times. So it would look like this if we expanded it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times. And I'd be out of it. Okay? That's what we worked on our first day, was just how do we do an easy expansion. However, we do need to look at what happens if it's more complicated. And when it's more complicated, it's usually looks like something like this. B to the 5th, A to the 7th, C to the 3rd. So I have 3 different variables. All of them have an exponent happening to them. So I got B to the 5th, A to the 7th, C to the 3rd. So if I'm doing this, I'm going to break it down by base number. So I'm going to start with my B is a base number, and it's being multiplied 5 times. Okay, my next base number is the A, and it's being multiplied 7 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oops, I went too much. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And of course, last but not least, our C is the next base number, and it's being multiplied by itself 3 times. And that entire thing is what my expansion is. And that's exactly what I'm going to want to write out if it asks me to expand. So that's what we're working on this week. It's our introduction. It's going to get a little more complicated next week, but for this week, we're just working on expansion and distribution and going from there. Thank you.